training our eye on what might be the biggest issue of Afghanistan's presidential poll. Not the upcoming withdrawal of NATO troops or the ongoing violence, but corruption. Some 13 million voters will be asked to choose their next leader this Saturday. What should have been a democratic milestone finds itself severely tarnished by rampant fraud, vote rigging and financially motivated alliances. A state of affairs that has left observers wondering how legitimate this election will be and sparked concerns about how the new leadership will tackle the challenge of bringing Afghanistan forward after a decade of war. Sylvain Le Petit, Nicolas Robert and Patrick Lovett bring us this report.
Kabul is swarming with Afghan policemen and soldiers. Each and every polling station is a potential target for terrorist attacks. One of the frontrunners in the Afghan presidential elections is holding a large political meeting. On this day, former economy minister Ashraf Ghani is receiving the official support of powerful warlords. Many of these men were enemies in the past. They're now united by the same goal, the conquest of power. Here you'll find former commanders of Afghanistan's Northern Alliance sitting side by side with Taliban who've been detained in Guantanamo. Sitting in the middle is Abdul Rashid Dostum, a fearsome warlord representing Afghanistan's Uzbek community. If Ghani wins the presidential race, the man will be vice president. Here many speeches favor references to jihad or holy war, a sure way to get the crowds electrified.
In the past, we've proved that with determination and solidarity, we were able to defeat world superpowers.
During the past decade, Afghanistan has not seen the rise of strong political parties. This means politicians rely on alliances, however unnatural.
We don't want to look at their past. We want to look at our future.
You'll find warlords in every political party. Mujahideens are everywhere, whether on Ghani's side or Dr. Abdullah's side.
But even though they're warlords, you'll still vote for them, right?
Yes, because they fought for our country, so they deserve to be in power.
Back in their home provinces, these warlords reign supreme, and it's often their prerogative to supervise the security of elections. 13 years after NATO forces began their military intervention in Afghanistan, warlords' grip on power is stronger than ever. This is one of the mottos of this underdog candidate.
This house belongs to Abdul Rashid Dostum, and you can see these ugly buildings. 99% of them are built by corrupt money.
Sultan Zoy has branded himself as the anti-corruption candidate. Because of his stance, he's now on the sidelines of these elections with no political allies and no chances of winning the ballot.
Each year, the Afghan government receives $4 billion, which end up missing. This country needs a real, efficient anti-corruption agency.
According to NGO Transparency International, Afghanistan is the world's most corrupted country alongside Somalia and North Korea.
All kinds of fraud, both fraud by election officials in the headquarters, by election workers in the field, and by government employees as chiefs of police, as governors, as ministers, as members of parliament. They're all involved in fraud right now. All of them.
Looking back at the last presidential elections in 2009, the UN said that 1/3 of votes were fraudulent. 5 years later, there seems to be no improvement to the situation. In Kabul, citizens must queue for hours, sometimes days, in hopes of getting their voting cards. Most here have no illusions on the state of Afghanistan's democracy.
Only the Almighty could stop electoral fraud from happening.
I came here at 6 a.m. I'm number 16, but over 100 people have already stepped inside to get registered. Corruption starts here, so imagine what it's like in the grand scheme of things.
The country has no electoral registers. Anybody can sign up anywhere. An estimated 19 million voting cards are in circulation for only 13 million voters. Meanwhile, those who have extra voting cards can sell them back to political parties for a variable profit.
Unfortunately, we have no computers, no database, so we can't identify the people who vote. And it's like that across the country. So there's no way we can tell if someone is registered elsewhere.
Besides the frauds, there's also the daunting task of organizing elections in a country at war. Providing security to voters is not always possible. Despite all this, the spokesman for the Electoral Commission wants to remain optimistic.
These are the ballots we're sending across the country. We hope they'll arrive in time for the vote. Out of the 6,000 polling stations, security services have identified 414 that are just too dangerous for the vote to take place. They'll remain closed because of threats posed by the Taliban.
A few days after this sequence was shot, the Taliban attacked the central headquarters of the Electoral Commission. Because so many threats are looming over these elections, the UN has sent only a limited number of observers to monitor the ballots. Meanwhile, political negotiations are still underway. In his tent, candidate Ghani is receiving more support for his campaign. These clan leaders from the Panjshir Valley north of Kabul have come here to swear their allegiance and seal the promise of their votes. In Afghanistan, the era of tribal alliances and warlords is far from over.
Well, to take this issue further, we can cross now to our guest, Yama Turabi, who's the Executive Director of local NGO Integrity Watch Afghanistan. Hello, thank you for joining us on France 24. You clearly have your work cut out for you. Corruption appears to be built into the system and widely accepted even. So how can it be tackled? We appear to be having some technical issues. Yama Turabi, can you hear us? Okay, well, it seems that we can't get to our guest. We'll, of course, try and come back to him later in our next editions. Well, going now to culture. China's dissident artist Ai Weiwei is staging his biggest solo show ever in Berlin. The man himself was notably absent at Thursday's opening. Weiwei, who's under house arrest, is at odds with Chinese authorities because of his repeated criticism of the country's record on free speech. Yuka Roy has more.
Marble surveillance cameras, handcuffs made of jade, and a reproduction prison cell. Ai Weiwei's latest show in Berlin is overtly political, showing his defiance of authorities and reflecting the Chinese artist's view on his country's record on free speech and human rights.
He's speaking about what's going on in China, he's speaking about what happened to him personally, but he's also speaking about what are the relations between China and the West.
The conceptual artist also tries to symbolize the fast changes in Chinese society and the influence of Western-style consumerism, like in this spectacular display of antique stools or these Ming Dynasty vases covered in car paint. Unable to leave China because authorities have confiscated his passport, Weiwei speaks to visitors through a video message. In an interview shot in Beijing a few days ago, the artist isn't shy to speak out against the communist government.
Many young people, artists, journalists, intellectuals, and social scientists have been put in prison because they have a different opinion from the Communist Party. I am worried about the situation.
Famous for co-designing Beijing's Bird's Nest Olympic Stadium, Weiwei spent 81 days in a secret prison in 2011. Since his release, he's remained under the close watch of authorities, who say he's still investigated for fiscal wrongdoing.
Now, for those of you who've always wondered why zebras have stripes, we now have the answer, and it has nothing to do with camouflage. Take a look.
Why do zebras have stripes? Even great naturalist Charles Darwin was left scratching his head. Multiple theories were suggested. The stripes help them to blend into their environment. They create a strobe effect to dazzle predators like the crocodile. Or the black and white deters flying insects, helping zebras to avoid bites. The last theory has it, according to researchers. When they studied flies' guts, they found much less blood from zebras than from other species. And zebras are less affected than their domestic cousins horses by sleeping sickness, a virus transmitted by tsetse flies. So why are zebras the only animals with these sorts of stripes? Because their hair is thinner and shorter than other similar species, so they need more protection. But the study doesn't answer the fundamental question, is the zebra white with black stripes or black with white stripes?
Well, that's it for now from the France 24 newsroom. Stay tuned for a full news update at the top of the hour.